Greetings from Senchai. My name is Saley Davis, and I'm on one of the public islands in Kitely, home to virtual worlds. Today I want to talk to you about the advantages and possible ethical risks of using virtual worlds to teach children literacy. You see me here in a dragon avatar form. Most avatars in Kitely are human forms, but I thought this one would be fun, and it is particularly appealing to children. I purchased this avatar from Senchai at the Kitely Marketplace for an equivalent of about 33 cents. The proceeds go to support the mission of Senchai to spread literacy and the love for stories throughout the world, both virtual and real. For the adventurous, however, this avatar is free if you can find it hidden on Senchai. I use this as an example because, although Senchai is not used primarily by children, it is a great example of an active community that promotes literacy through gatherings, readings, and performances. At Senchai Library, there are several portals to Senchai worlds. Some examples are October World, Celtic World, Swamp World, Viking World, Winter World, and more. The library island itself has many themed treasures, such as space exploration and underwater exploration, either in the underwater station or with fantastic sea creatures, based on reality and fantasy. Some of the sites I will visit include the port, but there are much more to explore than what you will see in this video. If one were to use this social platform with children, however, there are some ethical concerns to be addressed. Who regulates ethics in a virtual world? Are mixed audiences safe for children, or do they need private worlds in order to safely benefit from virtual world education? Sumu Sharma, Hitashi Lamash, and Seema Bawa touch on this in their paper titled, Who Regulates Ethics in the Virtual World? According to these authors, interactions within virtual worlds have different contexts, dimensions, and ethical problems, but these have not yet been fully clarified. Further, it has not yet been realized that ethics are involved in this process. From my exploration of Kitely, I can identify the key players in virtual worlds being the designer and the user. Both have an impact on the outcome of ethical behaviors. The designer position, in our example of Kitely, comes in two stages. Kitely as the provider of the virtual world platform, and world owners. The designer allows world owners to set their worlds at levels. These include general, moderate, or adult. Kitely sets the expected behavior for each level, and avatars created with a general rating cannot enter any world rated above that rating. It is expected that the world owners will appropriately rate their worlds and self-govern in accordance with these standards. This can be a daunting task. However, Kitely offers additional tools such as making worlds private or only open to certain approved groups. By joining a group, the avatar agrees to, in addition to the ethical standards put in place by Kitely, adhere to the standards defined by the group. In this, virtual worlds add an additional layer to the understanding of digital ethics. You have social ethics and individual ethics at play in social networking. Individual ethics can be broken down into two further categories, according to the authors: personal freedom and personal responsibility. In a virtual world that is strongly governed by ethics, dependent upon social interactions and reaction, this may lead to an allowance of unethical behaviors in favor of protecting individual freedoms over ethical decision-making. While common ethical concerns apply to technology and social networking, this is at an even deeper level when entering the virtual world. In contrast to the above, in the real world, the authors found that individuals experience a low level of personal freedom and a high level of personal responsibility. This should be kept in mind when considering common ethical risks. Therefore, an educator or a parent teaching personal responsibility in a social networking or virtual environment should be a high priority. One common point of concern is privacy. In many virtual worlds, the burden lies heavy on the user to understand the technology guides to privacy. The tools built into the technology and the application of these tools. In addition, the burden lies on the user for personal knowledge of personal safety and the steps to ensure privacy. Studies on the users of social networking services show that if they do not adopt necessary privacy settings that are provided within the website, it may lead to serious consequences, such as cyber stalking and identity theft. When involving children in this environment, virtual abuse is a risk that must be strongly considered. Again, the burden falls on the adult, whether parent or educator, to supervise and instruct on the guides to follow to keep oneself safe. Ultimately, it is the social networking aspect of most virtual worlds that increase the level of ethical complexity. As technology advances, OpenSIM applications offer more opportunities for educators to create virtual worlds on private servers. Until that practice is widespread, public sites still offer the easiest and most inexpensive solutions. The educator or parent has to weigh the ethical considerations and risks when deciding to use the technology. Another ethical concern that has been raised and is addressed by the authors of this publication is the risk of addiction. It is the social networking aspect of most virtual worlds that make this a real risk. Gamification itself outside the social network aspect can be created in controlled virtual worlds. This limits the risk in conjunction with time limitations to allow children the benefit of varied activities and interactions. Overall, the virtual world, when open to social networking, unless that network is strictly limited, monitored, and controlled, creates a vulnerable environment for children. It cannot be argued, however, that these environments are without benefits. They are engaging and motivational. In the paper, Purposes for Literacy in Children's Use of the Online Virtual World Club Penguin by Jackie Marsh, 26 children aged between 5 and 11 were studied to determine the effect of virtual worlds on literacy. The author chose Club Penguin because it had a motivating and enjoyable factor that encouraged reading and writing. Through this study, the author was able to conclude that virtual worlds are part of the digital generation. In spite of risks that may be involved, it is likely that these platforms will continue to grow in popularity. Virtual worlds, when guided by responsible adults, can offer children opportunities to improve on literacies. Through this study, the author also concluded that interaction in virtual worlds were as beneficial as offline literacy activities. The interest in virtual world participation by children can be a motivational tool for reading and writing. This format is likely to be further explored as technology continues to advance, and is worth the exploration. On screen, you will see the resources I used in creating this video essay, while enjoying a brief tour of my own experimentation in creating a virtual world I hope to use to encourage my own daughter in increasing her literacy skills in reading and writing.